Want to know the worst email or DM a wedding vendor receives? It simply says, "How much?" And in my mind, the next logical question is, for what exactly? But I get it. Reaching out to wedding vendors can feel a bit like the early stages of dating, right? Those initial messages are kind of like you're feeling your way to see if you two click. And as awkward as it might seem, with your wedding vendor team, you want to make a great first impression. You really do, because it can mean the difference between booking someone that will go out of their way to understand you and your needs and someone who ignores you and doesn't even respond. Not that I support that all or nothing kind of work ethic, of course. The truth is that a random and scattered approach to researching your wedding vendors can make it unnecessarily hard to find people who have the skills and experience you need and those people who truly get your vision. Because if you had a choice, you'd really want to connect, right? And have this incredible wedding day and, experience leading up to it with like-minded people that are easy to work with and that you love being around. Like it's a joy to work with them on this thing, and it doesn't even really feel like work. So this week I'm sharing a system to attract the right vendors who understand and can fulfill your wedding dreams. We'll cover why having a strategic approach to vendor communication is pretty much essential, how providing details from the start can get them excited about your wedding plans, and how to organise your options to make the best planning decisions for your big day. Consider this your key to vendor connections that save you time and stress. Let's dive right in. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. So first of all, because I know you're wondering why do you need a simple, repeatable process? And I'm going to be honest, planning a wedding means juggling a million details. Okay, maybe not a million, but I think it'd be fair for most people to say several hundred details. And I don't know about you, but I'm struggling to remember to have a decent breakfast, stretch, take my dog for a walk, get my daughter to school, and take the washing out of the machine most mornings, because something always seems to slip through the cracks. And one of your first big tasks in planning is reaching out to potential vendors, those creative types who transform your wedding day from just a Pinterest board or 6 full of your dreams to a day that actually materializes in the real world. Whether you're looking for a photographer, a florist, a caterer, or a band, the process can quickly get overwhelming and confusing because you're having to write the same or similar information over and over and over again. There are important details, crucial details, like times, dates, and addresses, for example, that can get missed or accidentally altered as you go along. You start with one email, you forward it to the next person, but you just tweak it a bit and you've left behind something as you've gone along. And then after you've contacted a dozen or more vendors, you can start to lose track in your own mind of who you've been in touch with, if they've gotten back to you at all, and what it was that they said. Was that makeup artist you loved available on your date? Or was it the other one? And were they the ones who had a minimum spend? Who knows, right? And in addition to this, the responses from vendors often come back to you at different times, of course, making it tricky to compare available options that are in your budget. But what if you had a system, a repeatable process that keeps everything organised for you and pretty much, as well as it can be, stress-free? What you're looking for is a proven email template, something that you can tweak as you go along, something to keep you organised, and something to help remind you of the important information as you go. The benefits of using a system like this, and big hint, this is what professional wedding planners do to save them from agonizing over every single email, every single outreach that they do. So the benefits, it keeps things on track. It's repeatable and it's easily managed. And in addition to this, when you're using a customizable email template for your vendor inquiries, you save time because you're not rewriting your details and your story every time. Just plug in your details and hit send. It also means you're not going overboard in your sharing with information that's just not needed, because that also bogs down the vendor on the other end, trying to sort through what you've sent to get the important information that they need. You stay organized. Each vendor receives the same key information, and it makes it easier to compare their responses side by side. You never miss the important details because the templates prompt you to include everything your vendors need to know, like your date, absolutely, your guest count if you have it, and if you don't, an estimation of that, the vibe you're going for, and your budget. So you get accurate quotes faster. Your vendors have a better sense of who you are, what you're looking for, and if they are a good fit for you. An email template means that even when you're tired, even when you're rushing out an email in your lunch hour, you can be professional and polite. Your emails stand out as clear, thoughtful, and easy for potential vendors to respond to. And again, this means a quicker response time for you rather than waiting weeks for the vendor to come back and say, we only do sit down catering options. Were you wanting a cocktail or seated dinner? Something as simple as that, which will make the decision for you of whether or not you want to even have a further chat with these vendors. And it reduces your stress. With a repeatable process, you can focus on the fun stuff, like dreaming up the finer details of your perfect day instead of worrying about admin and seemingly endless communication, that back and forth that never stops. And you're like, okay, this is the 8th response now. When does this end? It also gives the vendors the details that they need, as I just mentioned before. And here's a pro tip. The more details you can provide up front about your wedding plans, the better. If you've already chosen your venue, mention it. If you've decided on a colour scheme, share it with them. Because knowing these specifics allows your vendors to, number one, quickly assess if they're a good fit for your vision, if they've done it before, if that's the kind of thing that they specialize in. Number two, provide more accurate quotes that are tailored to what you need and what you're looking for, nothing over and nothing under what you need. Number three, it allows them to connect with you on a deeper level and understand your overall aesthetic, the big picture that you're looking for. And number four, it helps them to answer your questions faster because they have a clear picture of what it is that you're after. So giving these wedding vendors a comprehensive overview from the start, if you've gotten that far, of course, there's going to be some elements where you go, I don't know, we're still thinking about it, or TBC, to be confirmed. If you give them as much as you've got, it sets you up for more efficient conversations and it helps them to provide the best possible service to you. So what do you need to add in particular to that very first email inquiry, the first time you reach out to a wedding vendor? Now, of course, there's no absolute, there's no ultimate, and every wedding vendor is different. There are different ideal requirements for different categories of vendors as well. But the basics are to start with an email subject that helps vendors find your email later. So something like your last names, Smith/Jones wedding, then put the service in there, florist or stylist or officiant, inquiry, dash the wedding date or at least the month and the year that you're thinking of. Now that is super helpful. A wedding vendor can then search for that email, in the future by either of your last names, and they can be sure that, for example, that you're looking at their photography packages instead of perhaps their videography packages or their content creator packages and or the wedding date or month or year. It's going to narrow that search down for them. They can find you quicker. They can get back to you with a response that's more accurate. And the basic information of your email should include wedding date, if you've got it, of course, or the month or year or season, if you're not completely set on a wedding date. The guest count. It doesn't have to be precise, of course, but there is a big difference in the services that cater to a celebration that's less than 10 guests, or 11 to 50 guests, or 51 to infinity guests. They are very different weddings. They are very different quotes that would be given, of course. Your ceremony location, if you've got it, or undecided. The reception location, the venue or dress, or undecided. If you've got a wedding party, sometimes it's relevant for makeup artists, for hairstylists, for accommodation, for things along those lines. You want to let them know if you're having bridesmaids, groomsmen, attendants, just wedding party numbers. So if you know that already, let them know. You want to be communicating what vibe or atmosphere you're hoping to achieve. So just a really small description, just a few words of the style you're going for. So relaxed garden party, or modern city celebration, or intimate and romantic, for example. A couple of words about what's important to you really helps to guide the vendor. Phrases like candid photos, seasonal local food, sustainable florals, live music, etc. Huge laughs. I had a couple just last week who booked me in to be their celebrant, and they said, intimate disco vibes, I think it was. And I'm like, bloody brilliant. That's great. It gives such an insight into what they're thinking and their personality and what they're going for. Because, of course, the sky's the limit these days. It can be anything you want it to be. If you had a sweary, chocolate-addicted, wine-sipping fairy godmother who could help you with your wedding planning, what would you wish for? Perhaps no more waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, wondering what you've forgotten, or fretting about your RSVPs. Maybe no more spreadsheets or post-it notes or endless to-do lists. Well, I can help you with all of that. Websites is an Australian wedding website builder, guest management software, and wedding project planner all in one. Why is this such a game changer for you? Well, imagine everything to do with your wedding being in one place, updated in real time in the cloud, shareable to anyone else that's helping you, password protected for your guests, with notifications to tell you what needs to be done next and by when. It's amazing, right? I love how easy websites is to set up and use, and how there are no ads on the platform yelling at you to spend more money on your wedding. To get started on your very own free wedding website, just head to wedsites.com. That's WEDSITES.com, and enter the code UNBRIDELYPOD, that's Unbridely POD, to get 10% off their paid planning tools. The link is in the show notes. A budget, if you have some sort of range for this service, not your overall wedding budget, just what you're looking at spending or hoping to on that particular service. Now, usually you wouldn't put your entire wedding budget here. It might be applicable for something like a full service planner. That would obviously, be helpful and relevant. But for most other services, if you're reaching out to a photographer, have your photographer budget there. And if you're not sure, write not sure. We're not looking for all day coverage. If you're looking for a photographer, for example, you might say, we don't need all day coverage. We're hoping for 6 hours. Even that gives that photographer a chance to go, okay, well then I won't give you all this information about the all day packages or the 2-day packages that we offer. I'll just send through stuff about shorter timelines. Additional information you could put on the bottom of the email include, could you please let us know if you're available? Pretty important. If you're locked down a date and they're not available, then you need to move on, of course. And if they're not available, you might want to ask for recommendations. You might just think the sun shines out of this particular vendor. And you're like, look, if it's not you, then we want someone as close as possible to you. Who could you recommend? It's going to save you an extra email later on, right? And ask them specifically to send through some information about their packages or pricing. Sometimes vendors need to itemize their quotes and they'll need much more in-depth information to be able to give you that price, but they can usually give you a price range. And so ask for it. And just to cap off that email, let them know that if the vendor needs any further details to help give you the right information, then please ask. It's very simple. A vendor should know that. But sometimes they just don't reach back out and go, so what did you mean by this? The conversation just sometimes doesn't get broached that way. It doesn't expand that way. And so let this vendor know. If you need anything else, just reach out. We're right here. We want to keep this nice and open. It's just another way of making sure that there are no barriers to providing this excellent service. And so I was thinking about this advice, I was mulling over it, and I really hope that just sharing this with you today will mean massive time savings for you and better inquiries from a vendor perspective. All those photographers and, all those planners and stylists out there are going, oh yeah, I'm noticing the inquiries are coming through and they're just so much more in depth and they really help. And we feel like we're connecting better with these engaged couples. Because as I said at the start, there is nothing worse than the how much email. But then I realized you don't know what you don't know, right? For me as a celebrant, I've had these communications over 1,000 times. You might be planning your very first and only marriage, your very first and only wedding, or it might be second time around. And in addition to that, even if it is a second or third wedding and marriage for you, you might not have realized that things have changed. Tech has moved forward and expectations have changed as well within weddings. So what I thought would really help you is if I took this a step further and created some vendor email templates that you can just download, copy and paste, and then tweak to suit your specific needs. Genius, right? So when you go to unbridely.com/perks, PERKS, as well as all the other freebies and discounts available to you as an Unbridely podcast listener, you will now see a link to the free wedding vendor email templates that I've written for you. There's a set of 4 plug-and-play email templates to guide you through pretty much every step. So the initial inquiry, which we were just talking about then. So you're introducing yourselves, you're sharing your vision, you're asking about availability. The second email template is a follow-up, which is a bit of a gentle nudge if you haven't heard back, maybe within a week or so. But a caveat on that. Oh, it sounds harsh to say, but for me, it's the first red flag when you don't hear back from a wedding vendor that you've inquired with within a reasonable time frame. I know that sounds really harsh. And sure, your email may have gone to their spam or junk mail folder. Their website contact form may be broken. They might be on holidays. But it's also the very first sign that you're not important to them. And personally, I'd be on the lookout for someone else after, where would my cutoff be? I think a couple of weeks. If you haven't heard back, I've got to say, a couple of weeks would just be unacceptable to me. Because if they don't have a system to get back to you now, when there's the potential of you booking them and paying them money, how slow are they going to be once you've already paid and you're sitting there waiting for your photos? I know I'm tough on this one, but seriously, I think that wedding vendors who provide the best service should be the ones who get rewarded. And I want the best for you. So don't put up with unacceptable delays in communication. The third email template that I made for you is a quote request. As I mentioned before, there are some wedding vendors who really need specifics on what you're wanting. I'm thinking like makeup and hair in particular, they need to know the kind of style you want for your hair. Whether or not you've got really long hair, it's going to take longer. Yes, it's going to take more technical skill if you're having an upstyle with really long hair. And if you've got a couple of bridesmaids, that is a massive difference to having 5 bridesmaids, all with long hair, all that want an upstyle, and they want glam makeup as well. And the ceremony starts at 1 in the afternoon. It changes everything. You're going to need 2 stylists there. You're going to have to start really early. So a quote request might be needed for these types of vendors. And it means that you can ask for detailed pricing that's specific to your needs once you know that a vendor is available for you. And the fourth email template is a booking confirmation. It's when you get to just seal the deal and you get ready to celebrate. Yay, I've locked in whatever it might be, my officiant, my videographer, our venue. And I hope it takes some of the agonizing guesswork out of making those initial connections. I hope it keeps you away from going to ChatGPT and asking that way, because a lot of the information there is dated. It doesn't help how weddings are being planned right now within the wedding industry. And they also help you to get where you want to be faster. You don't have time to waste. So go to unbridely.com/perks. And the link is right there for you. This also made me wonder if maybe I should create some wedding planning Google Sheets, designed to take your wedding vendor comparisons to the next level. So as an example, maybe to record the vendor names, you've got the actual names of the people, their business names, the date you inquired, being able to track the different quote amounts, and also make detailed notes on their offers. So as we discussed in episode 132, 7 cheap wedding vendor facts to consider to avoid disappointment, you're not just comparing costs. You're assessing their overall value to you and finding the perfect fit for your dream team. It could be what you loved about their approach. These notes might be about their unique offerings or how they've done something super similar to what you're looking for, especially when it comes down to florists and stylists. Anyway, that was just a thought. So let me know if you need me to create something like that for you too, and I'll get right on that. You can DM me at Unbridely. So make sure you jump on it. If you're ready to simplify your wedding planning, you want to save time, you want to stay organised, and you want to make your wedding planning journey smoother, head over, download the Unbridely wedding vendor email templates right now. You can find the link at unbridely.com/perks. The picture is of this gorgeous woman. I think she's got white horn-rimmed sunglasses and a bit of a straw hat. She's relaxed. And you just click on there and I'll send them straight through to you. Trust me, future you will thank you. And let me know what you think of the templates as well, because I'm certain they could always be improved. So let me know if there is something missing there. And I'll catch you next week. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.